Well, there's some people in the XRP community that are trying to invent this grand conspiracy that there was blatant corruption between the insiders at the SEC and Ethereum. And I don't honestly think that that's the issue here.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Charles Hoskinson from Cardano firing back at XRP community. And guys, we know this is all part of the movie. This case has been going on almost 2 years, which is ridiculous unless it was all part of the plan. And guys, we know Gary Gensler is a chess piece for the NWO. And then also we know Charles Hoskinson is the actual NWO puppet right along with Brad Garlinghouse. We know Ripple pushes the NWO's agendas. Digital ID, ESG, carbon credits, a part of the World Economic Forum. And we know Charles Cardano is pushing the digital ID in Ethiopia and also working with the politicians, which we know are paid and bought for, and also pushing automation, the machine takeover. Now, how does the NWO stay in control when it comes to the masses? They always bring up drama. There's always a storyline to keep the sheep distracted. And that's the reason why the television was so important for the NWO's takeover. If you look at sports, all you have around sports now is drama. When I was growing up, ESPN played sports all day and no talking. Now you have more talking than playing. If you're invested in crypto, the only thing you should be worried about is the technology and keeping up with your investment. We know the NWO always has their eyes on the money. They distract the masses and run the money in the back door. There should be no emotion when it comes to investing. But guys, at the end of the day, we know the Hegelian dialectic works every single time.
The incredible wave of criticism I received for a single comment, which was taken out of context from an interview. I was in an interview called Thinking Crypto at my ranch and casually asked a question what I thought about a belief that the entirety of the Securities Exchange Commission is engaged in a financial conspiracy with Joe Lubin and the Ethereum group to solely single out and go after Ripple. And I said this was a grand conspiracy because it obviously is. There is no evidence that the entire Securities Exchange Commission has decided to only go after XRP and no one else. There are hundreds of enforcement actions they have pursued in the cryptocurrency space. The current commissioner, the current chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission, has repeatedly gone on record saying he believes most cryptocurrencies are securities. So obviously, while XRP is one of the first in line, it seems that the SEC intends, or at least is saying, that they're perhaps going to pursue a broad regulatory capture of our entire industry. And Ethereum may have gotten a pass, and that could, of course, be because of some belief that certain commissioners have been somehow swept up in a large wave of corruption, or it could simply be that tens of millions of Americans have participated in Ethereum. Tens of millions of Americans have put collectively tens of billions of dollars into Ethereum. That there are thousands of businesses built on Ethereum. That Ethereum truly is actually decentralized, and that the probability of a regulatory enforcement event would be quite low for Ethereum, whereas it's higher with Ripple because of facts and circumstances behind the case. Who knows? But apparently a subset of this community has decided to get so far down the rabbit hole that any even assertion that perhaps there's more to the story than a conspiracy of people in Ethereum Ethgate is now a crime. So much so that a person who has spent years being somewhat positive to the XRP community, from Interledger to other things, and has found ways to collaborate, now is the enemy. So much so that there are now members of this same mob calling for my background in Ethereum to be investigated, even though I've only been there for 6 months. That's it. And left prior to the ICO. There is no great knowledge I have of a collusion and conspiracy because there was none that at least I witnessed. And it's pretty sad and pretty disgusting. And this particularly really angers me because this is not a small group of people. I have literally received now dozens of emails. There are now videos made. It's on the front page of the XRP Reddit, tweet after tweet after tweet, attacking me for just saying something, 2 words, grand conspiracy, during an interview for a question I was asked. If this is how you treat people that for years have been a supporter of your community, I was one of the only people in the top 10 of the crypto community to go and talk about the XRP case after the Wells notice came and said it was wrong for the SEC to pursue actions. That's a fact. It's verifiable. You can see it. And yet you want to go down this road as a community. It's shameful. And then you say, I should go on and give some lawyer on YouTube the time of day to spend an hour or two on his channel to let him rant at me and connect all these dots and strings about how one commissioner did something or said something versus another commissioner. And that obviously is evidence that the entirety of the US government is engaged in a great conspiracy against the XRP community. You are the victims of regulatory capture because there is a legislative hole. It's not fair, it doesn't feel good, and it's a terrible situation for everybody involved. But this is what happens when the government overregulates. The EPA does it, the IRS does it, the entirety of the Treasury Department does it. Time and again, there are thousands of entrepreneurs and businesses throughout the decades that have been the victims of regulatory capture, of uncaring bureaucrats who have pursued agendas, fair or unfair, doing what they're told, pursuing what they're told. Win or lose, they don't care. This is just a case for them like any other. And if the SEC wins the Ripple case, they put it in the W column. If they lose, they put it in the L column, see if they can appeal. But in any event, they move on to the next thing on the list, just like the IRS with audits. If you win the audit, lose the audit, they go on to the very next return on the pile. Now, you can choose to believe that this is some grand cosmic struggle, that somehow there's this belief that the SEC has woken up and decided to single out Ripple so that they can prevent Ripple from succeeding, so it can't overthrow the world order and replace SWIFT. That's a fantasy.
Watching the pound and the dollar this morning, obviously the dollar getting a little stronger. Steve joins us with more of the details. And Steve, this is starting to feel a little eerie.
Yeah, so Becky, the day after that massive bond sell-off, we talked about it yesterday, Bank of England steps in again with new measures to halt the rout. It looks like it's been successful in holding that route, but not necessarily dialing back the sell-off. It was the second expansion of its bond buying program in as many days, the third since it reversed policy in late September, began buying bonds in response to widespread liquidity shortages at pension funds related to the gilt market. The BOA today expanded its purchase to include essentially the British version of inflation index securities. It said, dysfunction in this market and the prospect of self-reinforcing fire sale dynamics pose a material risk to UK financial stability. The measures had only a little impact on the 10-year gilt yield, which rose by as much as 30 basis points yesterday at one point. It's now at, I can't quite see it on my screen there, it was 449 just before I checked. The U.S. 10-year in overnight trading rose by about 12 basis points to 4% before rallying a bit on the news and is now, in that zone of 395 or so. Remember Governor Lael yesterday saying liquidity is a little fragile in core markets, and the Fed was carefully monitoring those markets. The question is whether what the BOE did now is enough. It's been criticized for limiting the bond purchases through October 14th and continuing to say it would resume asset sales on October 31st. I just read something from a pension fund lobby group in England saying that they should continue those purchases through October 31st. And you guys were just talking about why it eventually works. Well, past central bank intervention works best when it's been unlimited, and traders find they can't profit from opposing that policy. That's why I think you eventually get to a place where the policy works, because the bank does it this much, that much, and then says, okay, we're going to do everything. We're going to take all comers and all paper here, and that's when the policy tends to have a better impact.
Now we have the Bank of England bringing in a safety net. And guys, we know we rarely hear from the Bank of England. Now they're making nationwide news, and we know a lot of the NWO is in the UK. We know the Brexit didn't happen for any reason. This was all a setup for the moment that we're in right now. The main central banks are raising rates and shrinking their balance sheet, so therefore they can destroy this whole legacy market. And of course, the masses can't even wrap their minds around it. But we're watching this right in front of our eyes. The fall of the US dollar and the fall of this whole legacy market, and we're going to be moved over to the fourth industrial revolution, where the actual emerging markets are going to lead us. And in the West, guys, we have a lot of freedoms, a lot of privacy. And that's the reason why we're the last ones to come in, because they have to break that. That's the reason why they're using fear to sell a lot of the fourth industrial revolution. But the robots, algorithms, and drones are about to take over the economy, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.